Welcome everyone. It's been a while since I've done this, so not that it's going to be too rusty or anything, but I've finally, after 20 years, I couldn't believe it was this long. It was in 2005 that I registered for GoToMeeting and GoToWebinar and had been using it for that long. And I held off. Zoom just came out of nowhere during the pandemic and now owns it. They're the verb of web conferencing, and GoToMeeting just couldn't stay up. So yeah, this past month I had a change. So this is a little new to me. That's why myself and Edna, who's my executive assistant, she's been helping me with this, and we're just making sure everything's working. So if you can use the chat widget to ask questions, or the Q&A, one of the, and let me know if you can see both or not. We'll manage both of them. Okay. Thanks, Jennifer. She says that chat is disabled. So, okay, great. We'll just use the Q&A dialog box, and we'll get started. So welcome to this webinar. I just again, I haven't hosted a webinar for a few years. I'll go over kind of what's been going on, and then we're going to get right into it. So I appreciate everyone who's provided feedback or asked a question, and I had a few questions from before that when I've done this in the past, and just kind of changed up the answer a bit. And I think this will be. Hopefully it's helpful. Hopefully it's gives some up-to-date information. I don't know everything, and I'll let you know if I don't know something, or maybe I might know part of something, and I'll look into things further for you. So we're recording this webinar. We will make the recording available, and then we'll also separate all the questions into individual little videos that will be available as well. And then we'll categorize them too. So if you want more pre-need information, or at-need, or AI information, or Google Ads, or SEO, or that type of thing, they'll all be together, and then we'll have them in their subcategories as well. First off, just a little recap of who I am and what I've done in funeral service. So I'm a fourth generation funeral director. My family in Ontario, Canada, Egan Funeral Home. My great grandfather started that in 1913, and then went to my grandfather, who I knew and had a really great relationship. Then it went down to my Uncle Paul Egan, and then now my cousin Elaine. We're only a month apart in age. She owns and operates a funeral home, and I'm a Lonnie. I'm a left out nephew, but that's okay. My parents were my mom. She left Ontario when she was young, like in her early 20s. Came out to Victoria, BC. Met my dad, and she never moved back. So I was born and raised here in Victoria, and so even though I go out to Ontario, work at the family funeral home, came back, and then once I found that my professional hockey career wasn't going to take place, my dad said, "Hey, you're not going to just lay on the couch all day." This is after I graduated high school. So he phoned down. I was so nervous. He phoned down to McCall's and got me an interview. And I went down, and I was playing rugby at the time. And so when I dropped off my resume, I had a black eye, and but went back a week later for an interview, started washing cars, doing gardening, performing transfers and things like that, and then started my apprenticeship. And then 10 years after that, I pre-need was new to McCall's, and we started doing that with Monumental Life, with the NSM plan, now Selected Independent, and then also too around that time I launched my first website in 1998, and then in 2007 I started Funeral Futurist, which where I would offer some of the services and marketing to folks, funeral homes throughout North America. And just a little bit of background on the name is Funeral Futurist, where we are in Victoria. At the time we were the highest cremation rate in North America, and it seemed that we were like things were happening to us first before anything could happen. Anything was happening anywhere else. So with that, and we saw the cremation rate grow and grow and grow from, I think when I started, it was like 60% cremation, and now it's 92%. But at the time, we thought, it's just going to hit 100%. And but a couple of things happened. One, we found out that there's obviously some members of the community that are going to choose burial, and different community groups, or just for personal preference. And then also too, the main cemetery here in Victoria, Royal Oak Burial Park, they opened a green burial section, and they found that more of the people that chose the green burial were not burial families, but actually cremation families. They just don't want traditional burial, and they kind of like the green burial section. So it's growing, and we just had a wait list. Well, they're on their fourth section now, so it's pretty good. Anyway, back in like 2017, I kind of rebranded to Funeral Results Marketing, and then in 2020 I sold Funeral Results. Stayed on for a couple years, and then it just was time for me to kind of look elsewhere. And so in 2022 I started back at McCall Gardens. So in the time that I left in 2007 and 2022, they moved locations. Now they're right beside this cemetery, and it's not Dave McCall, who I worked with. He was the third generation of McCalls, and he's retired, and now his son Trevor is running the firm. So it's a little bit different, being a little bit older, in a brand new facility, or fairly new. It's 8 years old, and then working with Trevor and that. So the great thing is that I'm able to practice things that we'll be talking about. Like I've practiced some things this past week in the funeral home, and I'll share those with you. So this is kind of live things. I have a live testing laboratory. Obviously within guidelines. I'm never going to do anything that's not cool or over the edge. I'm still that kind of traditional funeral director at heart, and then with things with Funeral Results Marketing, that's come to an end. And so in late 2024, I've relaunched Funeral Futurist Marketing. Have a couple dozen clients came back to work with me with their websites and Google Ads and local SEO, and we're starting with AI and things like that. So we'll get into like a little bit of that, but the main thing is just sharing some of my thoughts on the questions that you submitted, and also too, please ask any questions. Edna's going to be recording them, and then right at the end, at the top of the hour, we'll kind of go through and answer ones that have just come in through the webinar today. And what Funeral Futurist does is, we do funeral home websites, cremation arrangement websites, Google Ads search, local SEO. We look after automations and AI, which we'll go into in a little bit. Reputation management, content and social media marketing, digital advertising for pre-need, We offer community newsletters and also sales CRM, so customer relation management system. Now let's get started. So what's the best way to grow our funeral home? Well, first of all, you want to be consistently deliver exceptional service, and that's internal. And as many of you know, a satisfied family is going to be your best marketer. Make sure that you invest both in your at-need visibility. Make sure that you show up on Google and SEO and even in new search realms like ChatGPT search, and then also your pre-need education, whether it be direct mail, seminars, newspaper. Build strong referral relationships with clergy, hospices, and community leaders. So some things haven't changed. Some things obviously have changed, but there's some things that haven't. And differentiate yourself. Highlight what makes your funeral home unique in your community. And there's different ways of doing that. But one thing that I've said in the past is it's always I think people like to say, we serve all faiths and things like that, which is fine, but I think you need to be a little bit more detailed and say, under your Catholic page, we serve Catholics. Under the Baptist page, we serve Baptists, and be specific and, draw those people down that funnel, because there isn't anyone of all faiths, right? There's some marketing saying, if you try to advertise to everyone, you're nothing to nobody. Kind of the same. I kind of butchered that a little bit, but along those lines. So, we try to differentiate where we can. And, one of the great things about online marketing is you can do that. What strategies should I use when going up against discount cremation and funeral providers? So, there's a couple, I've kind of split this into two. So the first part, if possible, have two brands. Have a low-cost cremation brand and your full-service funeral home. And that's one thing that we have here. So we have McCall Gardens Funeral and Cremation Services, and we also have Pacific Coast Cremation. So they serve the two different brands. My sole focus when I'm working with McCall's locally is the full service brand. So I don't really have anything to do with the low cost brand, and happy to report that we from a pre-need perspective, we do probably 2 to 3 times as many pre-needs during the month, and our prices are 2 to 3 times higher. So it's not, everyone's not just looking for the bottom, and it really helps having you just have to get your message out there of what you do and why you're different. We offer full services, even the lowest type of service, cremation without ceremony. We're going to still offer aftercare and things like that. Some of the those additional touches where the low cost brands are not going to be able to do that. But secondly, I think too, you want to focus on value and not just price. What are your different services? Anything that that you do uniquely, and plus the experience that you have and longevity you have in the in your community, if that applies. Now, you could be a startup of a full service funeral home, so you're not going to leverage your longevity, but maybe your personal attributes of and personal experiences within the industry. Either create a script or have some educational content explaining what's included in your pricing versus versus the low cost options. People, I think, and when we really got into this, like even 15 years ago, well, I think it's probably always been around. And before the internet, we get all these phone calls, and it's another price shopper on the phone, and and I actually spent quite a bit of time with Mike Kubasek. Mike doesn't he's not consulting anymore in funeral service, but we actually put a program together way back called Price Shopper Secrets, and really just trying to get across that when you don't know what else to ask, you ask how much is it going to be. So when here in our house, when we needed a new roof, when we phoned around and we phoned the 3 different places, we asked like, and how much does that cost? And then, but there was other factors, and we actually went with the most expensive because it was like the longest warranty, and in our climate, which is damp, Pacific Northwest kind of climate, you want to really make sure that your roof's not going to leak or anything like that. So it wasn't just that, but that's kind of where we started, and I think funeral homes need to hear that too. Is like even though they ask for price, it doesn't mean that they're strictly on price. They just want that information. One of Mike's last things, or things that he would always say, is he'd say, "Now, besides price, what's most important to you?" He'd like shuffle papers and like, "Oh, let me get the prices for you." But now, besides price, what are you most concerned about? And he'd get them off on another tangent. Talking about, "Oh yeah, we can do that for you," and sure, we can do that, and this is why we do that, and we're different than others, and he said that sometimes, or many times, that people wouldn't even come back to the price. They would just say, "Oh yeah, no, that's perfect. That's exactly what we need." So just don't get hung up solely on price, unless you're a low-cost cremation provider, and price is your number one factor. So then focus on price. How can an independently owned funeral home compete with corporations? Now, first of all, I've got a lot of friends throughout the funeral profession, and a number of them are working for corporately owned funeral homes, and I don't have a problem with that. But I know that from an independent perspective, it's another thing that we can position ourselves on. And they can try to position themselves in other ways too. So, but if you're from the independent side, here's a few points. First, you can just leverage your independence. Highlight your family ownership, local roots, ties to the community. Maybe offer personalized services that corporate firms can't match, like flexibility in their options or personal touches. They've got their standard procedures, and there's some things that they might have to ask permission for to do certain things where that could be done just going down the hall and asking the manager. Also, you can be more agile. You can quickly adapt to community needs and trends, and kind of what's happening both culturally or in technology. And throughout North America, it is different. Where funeral service is different in different places. It's even different in the same city. There's different pockets or different groups. So there's I think from an individual perspective, there is opportunities to adapt quicker than in a corporate environment. And also too, you can build some personal relationships with clergy, hospice workers, local folks from from your community, and trust beats branding every time. So you can if you're a corporate funeral home, you're going to have that brand from a national or international level, but if people, they make arrangements with people, they don't make arrangements with logos and things like that. So it's always good to have staff photos on your website, just because they can really identify that. And one thing in particular too that I see this a lot of is for cremation arrangement websites. Have a picture of a person that's there. So many of them now are they're cartoons, or they're animated images. They're not they're not actual photos of actual people. And even for the low cost cremation, I would say that it's best to have a slightly off professional, you don't need to have a big photo shoot. You have a nice photograph of the person, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, have it more authentic. And also too, because you're offering, kind of lower cost services, right? So people aren't going to expect the big lit up room with the box lights and all that stuff. But obviously you want it to be clear, and you still look to be professional, but it doesn't need to be like thousands and thousands of dollars of a photo shoot. But that's way better than just a generic image. In Google Ads, what bidding strategy is better? Maximize conversions or maximize clicks? So this is something new, right? So what we're kind of talking about are bidding strategies. And bidding strategies are kind of how Google will basically allow you to bid on things. So, before, like in the olden days, like 10, 15 years ago, you used to it was just like, they didn't even call it maximize or cost per click. But that's because that's what it was. You said, okay, I'll bid $4.25 on, funeral homes in Victoria, but I'm only going to bid like $3.25 on funeral home Victoria, and we could get super granular back then. Now, I think one of the problems, it's not really a problem, was that there was so much. We could get so granular with Google Ads. We could, we could dial it in. Now, as a consultant and representative of that service here in funeral service, is that it was like, since the information was there, I would get like asked all these questions. Oh, how can we increase that like a little bit more? And I'm like, yeah, we can do that. Let's try, and we'll do that. And I said, but I know you spend more money on that billboard on the highway. And are you asking the billboard company, like, how do they get like more cars to drive by, or how do they, focus on your billboard more often? And like, how do they like then interact with the billboard, or, get the information from there? And we will be talking about billboards in a little bit. But it was kind of this, it wasn't unfair because it was very valuable. But what Google's doing now is they're making it, give us a couple grand a month. We'll send you some traffic, and sure, you can dial it in, but we don't have the same control. They keep taking control away from us that operate Google Ads. So it's still available to do your maximum cost per click, and that's where we start when we start people on that, so we really get a sense of what's happening. But then we'll switch to one of the other bidding strategies. So there's my long intro for to answer this question. So I think maximize conversions, and what that is where you'll actually it will actually track someone, and they get to that goal in that process. So they've seen the ad, they click the ad, they go to the website, and then they actually have to take an action. And it could be maybe it's a phone call, maybe it's filling out a form. But for actual conversions, I think that's great for online cremation arrangement websites, because you can just get to the thank you page, so that that you've made your $9.95 or $15.95 or whatever it is, and you just want more and more people like that. And Google will try to do the best it can to figure out, okay, people have to go through all this process to get to that page. That's a conversion goal, and we'll track it like that. But for funeral homes, it's different, because funeral homes are visitors to a funeral home, especially through Google Ads. They're not going to arrange and pay for a complete funeral online. There's going to be questions. There's going to be availability of when can we have the service and things like that. So, you could set your conversion to be a phone call or filling out a form. But the other thing with funeral homes, and not really as much for online cremation websites, is that you're going to have people are there. They want to know, when's Mrs. Jones's service, and they're on the website, or they're just asking a question. And we've we've put a chat bot up on the McCall's website, and some of the questions, it's all about obits. Like, oh, when's this person, or where do we send the flowers, or those type of things. Now, sure, we weed out the pre-need ones, which is great, and I respond to those right away. But otherwise, it's that a funeral home website is so open. There's so many visitors, and it's just a small fraction. So I would more opt to maximize clicks for a funeral home, but for both cases, I still like to start with manual CPC just to see where we're at, see the market, what our clicks kind of going for, who the competitors are, and then pick one or the other when you kind of get moving in it. How should I best allocate my resources for the following channels? So Google Ads for at-need, budget versus ROI. Is it really trackable? Direct mail, social media, boots on the ground to visit churches, hospices, nursing homes, etc., or billboards. Okay, so there's a lot here in this question. So I'll do the best I can. So I think first of all, the best one is for at-need is your Google searches, and that's when they go to Google and search either doing it from your address bar or from the Google homepage or voice, and it's usually good to focus on at-need. Now pre-need, then like using your direct mail, you can having it for like seminar invites and things like that. You can also use for pre-need, you can also use your Facebook, Instagram, Google Ads display, so like the graphical images. That's more pre-need. And then some of the other ones, like if you're just doing regular social media, so what we do is we offer social, and it can get a little confusing. There's being active on social media, and you can but there's social media marketing. And so from the marketing standpoint, what we do is we provide content, and we put that in social media, and then it gets boosted a little bit, and then kind of the winner gets boosted for a little bit longer, and we just have this ongoing cycle of a new article every week for that. And then that though is interspersed with local things that the funeral home's responsible for. So if there's staff birthdays, or if there's like actual events that they're doing, or they've been to an event or something, they can share it. So the consumer just sees it, and they've kind of all integrated. And then same with community outreach. These are TOMA, so top of mind awareness. You've probably heard of that. And billboards obviously fit in that as well. And but as I said before, billboards have kind of limited messaging. So you're just getting the name out there, and if you can, with a small little call to action where you can, right? Dave McCall, who who I worked with a long time, we'd always talk about advertising, and usually, except for Google Ad search, right? Almost all of the marketing, unless it was like, hey, we got a new location, a new building, that's top of mind awareness. But otherwise, everything was focused on pre-need, because Dave would say pre-need, if you advertise for pre-need, that's going to help your pre-need and at-need. If you're advertising just for at-need, it's a slightly different message. And the other thing too is, there's only a small percentage of people at a given time that need at-need services, right? So pre-need services is a much broader group that you can attract. What single method has the highest proven ROI in funeral services? Digital marketing, billboards, or print? And I think ones with higher ROI, and again, it depends on your market. Your Google Ads search, you can really kind of tie it in, not as much as it used to be. You could know for sure. Google's taken away some of those metrics on us, but again, for at need. Online display ads, so they're more again for pre-need. Facebook, Instagram, Google display, and newspaper, direct mail for pre-need, which these two are more expensive, but it's worth testing it. But always make sure that there's on all of these, if you want to check ROI, there's got to be like a CTA, a call to action. So they've got to do something. They've got to fill out a form, or they've got to do something so that we can, they fill out a form and then mail it in, or they fill out a form online to, download a guide or that type of thing. And then ones with like no or little ROI, or your traditional advertising, like, like billboards, radio, and TV are much harder to track, except for like your long form TV, like infomercials. That you can then have a call to action, and then it's easier to track. And just finally, today, kind of the best marketing is to have a bit of a multifaceted approach. But I'd always start with what you can track, and then I'd say this to Dave, and then, okay, then we can decide on what you want to donate to for your top of mind awareness, because you don't always know what happens, right? And it's like that quote from John Wanamaker, who was apparently, they say he was a great marketer, but he came up with this quote, which then makes me question that title, is that I spend all this money on advertising, 50% of my advertising works, but the problem is I don't know which 50%, right? Or along those lines. I butchered it a little bit there, but that's kind of the gist. So nowadays, like we have a better idea of what works. One of the problems with funeral service, though, is that we're still dealing with a small segment, and we don't with SCI, they could really run these numbers and see what works, and because they're dealing with hundreds of funeral homes, so the number of ads that they are advertising would be like 100 or 1,000 times more than what a funeral home would offer. So they have a better idea in that. So I think sometimes we try to use just get a gist of what we can track, but then we just have to go by our experience as well. What's the best way to attract pre-need leads online? So for and some of these questions are a little bit repetitive, but they're asked in a different way, so I'm just trying to address as many as I can here. So for Q&A, for channels, I would choose Facebook, Instagram, and if you haven't dealt with those are done together, right? So that's part of Meta. Meta owns that, and they own WhatsApp. WhatsApp is way more popular in Europe than it is in North America, so I really wouldn't worry about that as much. And also too, it's really a communications one, so if you have ads in there, I don't think it's seen as good, especially being a funeral. And these are also too kind of in order of preference, right? So Facebook first, then Instagram, then Google Ads display, Pinterest, maybe LinkedIn, but for that professional crowd in inside of your community. Problem is you're going to also get a lot of people like other business people who want to hey, let's co-brand with a funeral home. Maybe that's good. Maybe they're just going to be wanting to latch on to to the funeral home who's been around for 100 years and has a great reputation in the market. And then I know there's things like TikTok and that, and and some people use it at this time. Only consider that after you've maxed out what you can in these other areas. And make sure you have your call to action, right? So your CTA, you're gonna you'll once you get into marketing, you're gonna hear that term a lot, or that those 3 letters, and that's going to be like that they sign up for an event, or there's a downloadable guide or checklist or pre-planning tool. Now I do have, let me see here, I've got our choices document. So this is something that I created with Ross DeJohn. So Ross is from Cleveland. They have DeJohn Funeral Homes out there just on the east side of Cleveland. And we put this together, and it's taken a lot of different forms. And I wanted to show this because this week, when I sit down with families and to do pre-arrangements, they've got a copy of this and I have a copy of this. And the beauty of this is, and this is just at funeralfuturist.com/choices. You can download it. There's a video up here that explains it in more detail, but I'll try to be quick. So the beauty of this is that it will, it has most of your, or if not all of your offerings. It obviously doesn't have your whole product catalog, but for services it does, or the more popular ones. And the benefit is there's 2 things. One, I think there's 3 benefits. It's on 1 page, so it's not pages and pages long. 2, for the people that don't want to have a service, and unfortunately here in the Pacific Northwest we do have a lot of people that just want that disposition only, or what we're calling that now is cremation without ceremony, and so there's this big, when we go through this list, there's this big chunk of space that's just untouched. So without me saying a word, they see everything that they're missing out on. Now maybe they're going to do something on their own, and I do suggest, you may choose not to do something with us or within our facility, even though it looks really good. You can do it whatever, but at least do something. So they actually see what's missing, and again, I don't have to say it. So and then and the third thing is there's no prices on it. So this conversation, it's not about price. Oh, how much is a maybe down the road they might say, oh, what's the difference in these prices? And obviously I'll tell them if they ask, right? But they kind of, by looking at these options, especially this section here, is they'll look at it and we were thinking of we didn't want to have a traditional service. I'm like, okay, well, you can have like a celebration of life, which you and I know is a traditional service, or could be in a different name. And the other thing too is if Dad said he didn't want to have a service, I'm like, oh, fine, that's no problem at all. Would then a memorial reception would be okay, right? Oh, well, what's that? Oh, well, that's kind of like where everyone gets together. There's no service, and people can come in and have a bit of reception. You can have some food and appetizers and things like that, and depending on your area, maybe you have like beer and wine or whatever, and And I said the difference is you could have like a celebration of life that starts at 2:00, or you could have a memorial reception from 2 to 4. Like for the funeral home, there's no difference in price. You can it's just how you want it. How do you want to position it? So it's a great option, right? Because I'll say, and it obviously it depends on the But if I have a good character or good rapport with the folks, I'll say, no. Did your dad say that you can't have a memorial reception? Obviously, your dad didn't say that because he has no idea. Now he's dead, so he can't say anything about it. And oh yeah, no, he never said that. I said, there's a benefit of getting people together and that. The one thing with pre-need though is that I find that they'll say, well, what if we live till we're like 95 and we have no more friends? Like, well, you should have some family and things like that, and then maybe grandchildren or great grandchildren. So I try to get that in there, and they'll say, well, how about we just plan for, the family can choose to have the celebration afterwards, but we'll just do the direct cremation now, which, it's unfortunate, but hey, we'd rather get the business at the full service price than them go to like a low cost provider, right? So anyway, I wanted to just share that with you, and feel free to download that if you like. Should I run Facebook ads or Google ads for pre-need marketing? So your primary Facebook and Instagram, secondary would be Google ads display for that. And we've talked about a lot of other circumstances for advertising, so we'll just go through that one quickly. Can I remove fake or unfair reviews on Google? It's a good question. So now we're kind of getting into the reputation management. So you can request removal for policy violations, especially hearsay, and this is great. So I'll spend just a little bit of time here. This is the first thing that I look for. So if I'm helping out a funeral home and they get a bad review, and all that it needs to say, someone could go off and say how horrible your funeral home was and how horrible the funeral was and that, and then if they say, oh, and this other person said it too, right? Because some of these people, they're a little unhinged, and they just can't help themselves but pile on and get others. As soon as they say that, if they say that someone else said it, boom, Google will take that down. Like, you could just say, this ad has hearsay in it, please remove it. And if it does, they'll do it right away. It's super easy. And these people, these whiners, they just can't help themselves. Now, also Google and Facebook, they may remove reviews for if there's profanity or false claims. So that is another way that could be removed. But otherwise, it's it's something that if it's a legitimate review, then you just have to deal with it. So, and I think we'll get into that in another slide as well. Even if it's unfair, it's hard to get rid of them. So the best way to get around that is just make sure that you have a stream of positive reviews. And reviews help in a couple of ways. One, it's just good to have good reviews, and secondly, it's the more Google doesn't want to see you have like 100 new reviews next week. They'd like it to be like organic, natural, just over the course of time, more and more. So you don't want to have like a huge spike of reviews. You'd rather just have a slow stream of reviews going up and up and up and up and up. So you kind of want to have a bit of a program in there. Should I feature positive reviews on my website? Yes, absolutely. And make sure that you showcase these real reviews like on your homepage or on key service pages. So if you get lots of reviews, and then you have one that's like a funeral or a burial family, that could be used on one page, and then you could have another review, if it's cremation, on the cremation page, or maybe you have aftercare service and they talk about that, so you can have that review on that. And make sure, just obviously anything that highlights the care and your compassion and professionalism that you or your staff displayed is great to be displayed on your website. And then also too, most websites, you can embed Google reviews or Facebook reviews right on your website. How do I recover from a string of bad reviews? I think you should respond professionally to every negative review. You should respond to every review, period. And then address any legitimate internal issues. So both, you may not, you could thank them for bringing that to your attention, and that you're going to either, depending on what it was, you could mention that, I've spoken to our entire team, and we will, we'll make sure that we provide greater services in the future. Or you could say, we've changed our internal processes that, that this will never happen again. Depending on what that is. Also, have a campaign to actively collect positive reviews, and then to just during your staff meetings, just let them know, point out. Obviously, you can give them the crap sandwich, right? You can share like a good review, put a bad one in there. Tell the staff like, hey, this isn't acceptable. We need to make this better, and then have another review, like a good review after that. Is it safe to use AI chat bots to answer website inquiries? Yes, of course, it is. But you need to be, you have to train them, and you need to monitor them, and then I may not have said it that way. So you can, they can all be trained, and because everything's recorded, and then you let know, like, oh, when you get asked this question, then this is your response, right? So it's a bit of an ongoing process, but over time it's just going to be less and less. It's just like training a staff member. The one thing is that this staff member you don't have to pay much at all. There's no holidays, there's no breaks. They could they work 24/7, and they could they could be answering 4 or 5 questions at the same time. In the training, though, you want to make sure that your responses are as accurate as possible and compassionate. So in me dealing with these, different, like a plumber's chatbot's going to be different, right? It can be a little bit more abrupt or to the point, or doesn't have that nice polish that us funeral directors like to put on all our communications. And then AI can also handle common questions, so you can have like a bunch of FAQs kind of loaded in to the chatbot, and then it will incorporate that. And then also too, you can also monitor the chatbot transcripts to make sure that it improves over time. Are AI generated blog posts good for SEO, or will Google penalize them? First of all, Google doesn't penalize AI content as long as it's helpful and well written. And there's like if you've ever used ChatGPT to help write like an article or a blog post, like what we do with all ours is the staff will like Edna will put the information in, and we'll get a good start or almost completed response. And then I go through it and I edit it, and some need a bit of editing, some need a lot, and there's some things that that I've seen that AI, it's just not going to know what we know. Like it for more general things, it's going to know way more than we know on every topic. But when it gets into some of the finer details, it can get confused, right? So it's always good to to go through and edit these and that. But I think the biggest change, and if you haven't played with ChatGPT, do so. You can do it for free, and just ask it questions. One thing that I'll do is I'll share like a prompt. I don't have it handy. I don't want to just search for it right now. But a prompt is like kind of the question or how you phrase the question. So you can't just ask it like these little questions like this. You need to ask to really frame the question, and there's like kind of 6 parts to a really good prompt, and then just kind of when you're asking, make sure that you're addressing kind of those things, and then it'll give you usually a pretty good answer. And also make sure to that the post provides value to your family. It's it's just not keyword stuffing to try to rank in Google, where it's more conversational. So and searchers are getting that way too. Especially I just watched it last night, where Google, a guy named Neil Patel, he's a SEO expert, in that space, and he just says that this is for the first time in 20 years, right? Google is it's starting to lose ground in search, and people can search in many different ways, right? People can search for they can search on like Search GPT or ChatGPT search, they can search in Amazon. So if you're looking for products, a lot of times people just they start their search in Amazon just to see what's available, and then maybe they'll look for then something specific there, or then search again in Google to see what the other stores offer, or maybe there's some local sales or something like that. And then also too, you can cite any reputable sources and link to these pages for better credibility. So what that does in ChatGPT now has kind of web search. So if you kind of click that button, I'm not sure if it's available on the free version, but I have the $20 a month plan. And if you click on that button, it will actually provide links. But there's another AI tool called Perplexity, and Perplexity takes a little bit more time. So it takes like 5 seconds instead of 3, and it will, but it will actually give references as well, like links to different websites. So and which can be helpful if you're writing an article, and always to have a few outgoing links and have a few internal links, right? So it's a great way to create your content. And again, you don't have to start with a blank sheet any longer. At least you can have an outline and go from there. What are some examples of how a funeral home could use AI today? And I've really kind of focused this on marketing AI, right? There's lots of uses for AI, but the main part is, for me, for what I know and what I've studied and events that I've been to, it's more on the marketing focus. So AI chatbots are answering, can answer common pre-need and at-need questions. You can have voice AI that actually has a conversation with people, and that can lead to setting an appointment, taking a message, or even transferring a call. And these aren't like these when you phone and you're in like this robotic system, and you get this one automated operator, and then you get bounced to another one. It's the same message, and I can tell when I'm phoning like the pre-need company, and it's like their inflections on the words are the same, right? Where the voice AI that we've been working on is really like it has a conversation. It hears exactly what you say, and then it will, it responds to that person. AI generated blog content improves local SEO, and you can even have like AI powered email drip campaigns that nurture your pre-need leads, right? So that's something. I think one thing that I'm going to do is have an AI webinar on, again, it'll be marketing, but we'll go into more details and show some demos and things like that. But one thing I did want to share with you is what we've come up with. So this is not a question; it's just a kind of a new service. Like we're going to have an AI package, right? So this is going to be the voice AI receptionist, and again, it answers the phone 24/7, 365. It receives a call, answers FAQs, it can transfer a call, it can take messages, it can book appointments because it integrates with your calendar, and also too, it records and summarizes all your communications, and it's like you're talking to a person. But it's not taking the place of a funeral director, so you don't have to worry. You're not going to get replaced, right? If you're a licensed funeral director, you're good, right? And a lot of states and provinces, like only the funeral director can give prices and stuff, so you're good. You're not out of a job. Also, too, we have an AI chatbot, and again, it's trained the same way as a voice receptionist is on, but it's just in chat base, and a lot of people use this. If they see a chatbot, they're going to fill that out more so than they're going to fill out a contact us form. So if you're getting contact us forms submitted to the funeral home website or through this funeral home website, you're going to get even more through the chatbot. And also too, in this package that we're going to have, we're going to also look after your reviews, right? So we talked about having more reviews consistently. So this is going to first connect with your previously served client families. So you provide us with a list of the survivors, first name, last name, email address, or cell phone number, and they're going to go through a process, then get a review. And then also too, we can monitor that and respond to the reviews. They can, if you're confident enough, they can just automatically post, or they can be held in draft format. You get a copy, you approve it, and then it gets sent up to respond to those. So just wanted to share that. Here, I wanted to jump to this first, and then we'll go back, because this is kind of the last one, which I'm going to share. This is like live stuff that I did this week. How do I follow up with pre-need leads without being too pushy? So you can use like an automatic email sequence with your educational content. So you've offered that to them, and you can have these gentle follow-ups. Do you have any questions that you want to talk about, or share some helpful resources, right? If they're kind of on the fence, and you're just you're letting them move at their own pace and stay visible. So this past weekend, so Saturday, I sent out this email. So this is live, and I'm going to give you the results here in just a second. And so this is someone that I met with in February, and then they came in. One thing, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Trevor McCall says to me, he says, like, you have so many of your pre-need meetings are like, just like they come in and they buy right there and it's over. I'm like, well, hey, thanks. I think partly it's I'm older, right? No, I'm not that old, right? I'm 56, but I used to be like in my 30s, right? When I did pre-need before. So maybe there wasn't the same trust factor. Maybe we're dealing with a different generation. But what I do is, like, when I meet with people, they are prepared. Like, I've given them, it doesn't matter if they're like 95 years old, the staff at the front desk ask, what's your phone number? What's your email address? Right? And there's sometimes that we don't get an email address, but most of the time we do. And just on an aside, 100% of the time I have my computer when I make the pre-arrangements. It doesn't matter if they're in their 90s or if they're in their 40s. I have my laptop doing that. So people don't don't think that, we're not ready for that yet. And some of these older folks, desks a bit more intimate, and no one's ever said, why do you have that computer here? So I just wanted to share that with you. Okay, now, so back to the people have, they set the appointment. I send them a couple of emails. Like, I send them an email right away, and I send them an email the day before. And I'm trying to get vital stats information, get them to pre-fill it out, because then we can just save that time. Maybe some pre-need reps think, oh, it's great. It's a great way to to like build rapport and stuff. And yeah, it is good to do that. But I can do that too. I like, even walking, I just read what they did. I'm like, okay, they're they're born here, or we handled their family. So while we're walking and kind of settling into the arrangement, I can talk about that without having to ask all those questions. Anyway, so that's why most of the time it's like one meeting and it's a sale. When it's not, they are now getting this. I hope you're doing well. I just wanted to follow up on your pre-arrangement quote that I created for you, and see if you had any questions or needed any clarification. Many people find peace of mind in finalizing their plans, knowing everything is in place for their survivors or executors. If you're ready to move forward, we can schedule a time for you to come in, or I can send the documents to you by email and DocuSign for your convenience. Let me know what works best for you. Looking forward to your reply. All right, so there's a little salesy stuff in there. Not too much. It's I think it passes the funeral homeowner test, that it's not too salesy. And this is what we'll see what Dave and Trevor say. Like, hey, I didn't know you were sending that out. But anyway, so I sent out this Saturday. I sent it went out to 6 people. I've got 4 replies. I've got and then 1, which is 2 people, sale. So, which was big. They're young. They're in their 50s, and so that's done. Like, they're already signed up, and it's Wednesday. So, and I've got others to follow up with as well. So I've reactivated them, and it's this one email. So I will, make this available. You can, edit it, change it. Me and one of my assistants called ChatGPT worked on this together, and obviously I made my last little bit of adjustments on it to suit me, and I think I'm still know a little bit more than ChatGPT does about pre-planning. But you know what? They're pretty good, right? It's a good assistant to have. Okay, I'm going to see. So, is there any value in working with a marketing company in regards to figuring out Google Ads? Well, hey, I'm probably a little biased because this is one of the services that we offer, and I think it is for the exact reason that I just shared on the last slide. I've been over the past 3 or 4 years, right? As Google has these like reps that they come in. Now these reps, they haven't been around that long, right? I can tell, and they do not know funeral service at all, right? They know the basic stuff, and if they're dealing with like a realtor, if they're dealing with again like a plumber or HVAC service or something like that, they don't understand us. And it was funny because you'd get these Google reps for like a 3-month stint, and then we'd go for the quarter, and then my Google rep would say, hey, we're just switching things up, can you I want to introduce you to your new rep. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I said, have you warned them about me yet? And they said, yeah, a little bit. I'm like, okay, yeah, because it's a bit of a battle every time. Not that it, because they're just forcing you into like, maximum conversions, and then pay us like $3,000 or $4,000, and you know what? That's not going to work, right? I want to like dial in and really get in, because there's so many ads that there's lots of clicks that we don't want, right? And so I'll argue with one. I'll just share one example, right? Is I really like to start out with the first, like the question in the headline of the ad. Has someone died in Victoria? ? Or has a loved one died? ? And so it's doing a couple things. Again, lots of people who are searching for funeral homes are maybe looking up obituary information, right? So if someone wants obit information and they see that, they're gonna like go to the next ad, which is awesome, because this person didn't want, they didn't want our services, right? And again, it's Google Ad search, so we're focusing on at need, and but on the flip side, if someone has just died and they see an ad that says, has someone died, they're like, yeah. And then they're going to read the ad more. So, back in, kind of marketing training, right? You're always told, the headline is the ad for the ad. So I'll just repeat that. The headline is the ad for the ad. So meaning you need a really good headline for people to keep reading the rest of the ad. Right? And then once they read the rest of the ad, then you want them to click the ad if it makes sense. So that's why with Google trying to change it all the time, and I think sometimes they want the ads to be more vague, right? Not too vague, because they don't want people to stop clicking on ads, but they don't mind having one or two clicks, right? Because they're still going to, if they look at it, they click and they go to the website and they look around for a little bit, as long as it's, past whatever the threshold is, and then they come back and maybe search again, then, then they're going to charge your funeral home, and then they're going to charge kind of the next one whose ad gets clicked on. So we want people to not click on the ad if they don't fall into the category of has someone died and you need a funeral. So anyway, that's my thoughts on this and how a marketing company does help, because these inexpensive, these inexperienced Google reps are just going to make it like, they just want you to pay that flat fee, and just treat it like the billboard. They'd much rather have, people spending their $2,000, $3,000 a month with Google, but, have the interaction that you have with your billboard company, which is nothing. It'd be a lot easier for them. So I think for the situation that we're in, we need, you need a little bit of expertise in there. So not that, some funeral directors can do it on their own. Okay. Should I promote my general price list, or GPL, online for at-need families? And this has been a big, we talked about it a lot for a long period of time, and in the U.S., right, the FTC is moving that way. Some states have already moved that way, and in the long run, you're probably going to need to have it, and I think anyone should have it, but it needs to be put up the right way on your website. So, first of all, yes, transparency builds trust, right? And what's funny is my marketing costs are on my website. Lots of my competitors, they don't have costs. Why? Like, are they afraid to share those? So just like I practice kind of what I'm preaching here. And then also too, highlight, like, I think this is the big thing. When we were told that, soon we're going to have our GPLs online, funeral homes, they just took their price list, made a PDF and put it online. Well, and, our price lists are not great. There's a few funeral homes that have really good ones, but for the regulations, there's no marketers working for your state or provincial regulatory board. Like, hey, this is the best way to communicate your prices. They say, oh, you just need to itemize everything, and and I'll sit there with a family with the price list there, and I'm like, okay, well, here's part of it. And we have to flip pages, and then, okay, now we need to look at like all of the urns, and we need to look at the caskets or cremation containers, and you're kind of jumping around, but they're not going to have any idea. So I think it'd be first. There's no law that says you can't put packages on your website. Yes, there is a law saying that you need to provide itemized pricing, which you can provide afterwards. But I would always start with have your packages first, right? And kind of you're going to simplify that decision-making process, especially with photos too, right? Back in the day when I was doing pre-need before, we made these 8.5 by 11 landscape kind of little posters with a casket, and it'd have kind of a breakdown of kind of the cost, like bundled, like it went past the regulatory board, but it had everything and they could see it, and there was a bit of a discount if they took the package. And what I loved, why I love this was that I'd take these 3 packages out and give them to, let the family look at them, and kind of same with that choices document, everything was there. So, there's an urn already included. Oh, okay. And, and then if they take anything out of the package, then they lose because each of these packages had a discount. The And we always made it. I'd ask Dave, what's our average for traditional service with cremation? Okay, the average is whatever, $4,000. I'm like, okay, so that's the average. So the lowest, say if that's like the lowest is like 3,000, and then obviously it could be higher. So I'd always go a little bit higher than the average, right? And of that particular service, so that even if they took the discount, we're still above our average, right? And it's just an easier sell. So you don't want to have a package with like lower options than your average, right? You want always to have this up. So what I'm getting at is make sure you have packages. Then make sure that you can download these on your website, and I test it with having a lead capture form. Like that's where someone has to enter in their name or and email address, or just have an automatic download. And on one hand, like only put the lead capture form in there if you've built out the back end, meaning they're going to download it, they're going to get it. You already have a workflow of they're going to get a few follow-up, nicely worded follow-up emails, and you're going to continue that on. There's no reason to get their name and email address or phone number and then never use it, because you would have lost some people because they're like, oh no, I'm not ready to give my name yet. And that's why you should test it, and then maybe just have like a free download, because you know what, probably I'd rather have 100 people with the price list versus 10 people that filled out the form. But you need to test it. Again, pricing is make sure it's easy to understand and that you have no hidden fees or no fine print, right? These price lists are confusing to the public already, so lead with your packages, and and then whatever you need to abide by your rules, include that, but put that at the bottom or at the back. What are the most effective ways to generate at-need calls online? Well, first, Google Ads search, as I mentioned, targeted to the keywords like funeral homes in Victoria or funeral home near me. Make sure it's in your Google business profile, that you have that optimized so it's complete, because it's not just your website anymore, right? There's all these other factors. There's your you can have your ads, and you have your Google business profile, then you have your online reviews, right? And then you want to make sure that your website has the schema code built into it, and that's with your NAP, your name, address, and phone number. So most websites should have that, but they want consistency. So you don't want that you live on we used to be on Vancouver Street when McCall's was downtown Victoria, and it could be ST period, it could be street spelled out. Google wants it consistent, so that with everything spelled out with the name the same, so you can't keyword stuff your name. It has to be what your legal name is. And schema is how you can then inside the code, and this is for the web developers, that it kind of says, okay, here's the address, here's the city, here's the zip or postal code, here's the phone number, here's the email address. But it doesn't, when someone's reading it, you can't see it, but in the code it's been identified. How do I make my pre-need marketing more educational rather than salesy? First, you want to frame it around helping people prepare. You're not just trying to sell funerals. That's just part of it. But then, we do want to have we need to attract people, right? So whether we're going to have webinars or checklists or FAQs, and then you want to be, you want to be the trusted advisor. You just want to be a provider or a salesperson, right? So you want people to trust you. And that's what I tell Trevor. That's why we get all these sales, because they trust me, right? But it's just kind of that approach of really being a trusted advisor. And also too, the main marketing that we do four in-house seminars a year. They're more estate seminars, and they come into the funeral home. We put 2 ads into the local newspaper. It seems to work well. Maybe it's just because of our market, and we get 65, 70, sometimes 80 people per session, which is great. Trevor would wish there'd be a little less. I'd like a little more, so we're happy with that. They can sample a bit of the food and see the nice surroundings and that, so it works really well. And I know that some people are there more for some of the estate information, but not just the funeral home information. But anyway, we're again being the trusted provider, the trusted advisor, not just a provider. What kind of lead magnets work well for pre-need campaigns? Downloadable pre-planning guides and checklists, so you can do that. You can also have estate planning webinars. So we're actually going to start our 2. We're as I said in the last slide, we do this more estate planning, executor protection seminar. Now we're also going to be ones. Hey, this is more focused on pre-planning. We might get some, like a financial person in there. I put legal in there because it's a draw, but you know what? The problem is that lawyer gets all the questions, right? Because people think, oh, it's a lawyer, we should get free legal advice. So, I'll do it if I have to, but I don't always like having a legal person there. They get all the airtime. Yeah, so that's kind of come to the end. I have a few more slides, but I think this has been really good. Yes, so the question was, is the downloadable content something you can put behind a request for information, like getting their name and email? Yeah, absolutely. You can do that. You can test if it's pre-need. I would start with if you're doing pre-need, I would put the lead magnet up there, or the form to get some of their information. If it's like your price list, I would lean towards just giving that away, like not putting it behind a lead capture. But yeah, by having for pre-need, by having that, you have a longer period of time to communicate with them and nurture them along, and then too, we can always roll, depending on your regulations in your state or province. You can put them into your your community newsletter or that type of thing. So quarterly or every other month or every month, that you're at least sending something helpful out and kind of building that rapport. If you're interested in the AI support, I think the AI package that we're offering is perfect for cremation arrangement websites. And my goal will be, as we kind of fine tune this, that we're gonna before the end of the year, we're going to be offering a AI package that you'll be able to run your online cremation business with no staff. Now you'll still need to have a funeral director to do the funeral director things, like sign the contract once they paid, and answer any questions about price or that type of thing. But other than that, my plan and quite shortly is to have that fully automated. 90% automated, and again, just for the when they want to talk to someone about pricing. But your prices are all there anyway. So once the cremation arrangement website, there'll be, again, there's a little more hand holding with funeral homes, and they're going to need more. There's going to be more back and forth, but it doesn't mean that it can't be done to a degree. The other thing that where that package in its entirety may not be great or as attractive to funeral homes is that most funeral homes have an answering service, and they're going to want an answering service because there's they're taking first calls and that where on the cremation arrangement side, they can just go through and make the arrangement. So the questioning's a bit different. Oh, and Gail mentioned, I saw this earlier, and that one of the things that she does is they have like a movie night at the funeral home, and where they get people to come in and is it monthly? Let's just see. Yeah, and it's so you can invite people in, and lots of funeral homes now have the ability. They've got the big projector and screen, so people can come in and maybe play one of the classics or that type of thing. So that's a good idea to connect with the community. Oh, and Gail said they do it every other week. So yeah, that's good. Gail, is it the same people all the time, or is it different people? Next week is the 7th seal, if anyone is in Santa Fe. Okay, let's see here. Well, we are at the bottom of the hour, so I really appreciate everyone attending today, and we're going to have more. I'm going to be doing these more often. The other thing too, just for folks that one thing that we've done with our websites, I'll give you just a little bit of background. So one of the reasons why, when I considered selling my business back in 2020, was that there's these, there's marketing websites and there's these technology websites. And I'd always position ourselves as a marketing website, being a marketer and that we could do a lot of things. We could do a lot more customization, and we can create landing pages and hidden pages and things like that. Where the technology websites that funeral homes that are offered, and there's lots of them, and they make their and they're free, right? Because they're making their money off of selling flowers or planting trees or that type of thing. And I thought, at that time, I thought we lost. We can't beat free. And but during my time kind of away from that, a couple things happened. One, I did spend those couple years really diving back into AI and trying to understand that and figure that out. And AI is so broad and always changing, so I've really focused on the marketing side. Sure, you pick up other things. So that's one thing that I did. The other thing that happened is, these free websites that sell flowers and plant trees, they're not for everyone. And so there's a section of the market that would rather have a marketing website, because I've heard from other people, like I'd be talking to someone or looking at their website, I'm like, you don't have a contact us page on your website? And they're like, what? I'm like, no, it's not there. Good thing I had your email address from before. You could find it in the footer or whatever. But so so these technology websites, they're good for what they do, and that's great. And they do generate income through the obituaries, but they're kind of missing out on this marketing side. So one of the things that I'm happy to report is that I've talked with Curtis and the guys from Tukios. I've known Curtis for a long time, and what we can do too is, because all of the sites that Funeral Futurist does are built on the WordPress platform. It's the most popular platform, it's the CMS, content management system, in the world. So 42% of all main websites, so not little like little grandma or grandpa or websites. 42% of these sites are WordPress, so they're by far the big gorilla in that. And but what we can do though is we can take you get the marketing power of the Funeral Futurist website powered by WordPress, but we can then plug in the obituary module from Tukios, and then so you're going to get the benefit of both. You have a marketing website, but you'll still be able to provide obituary notices with that will generate income, sell flowers, and that type of thing. So that's something that that we can do. So if anyone's interested in either having a look at how the websites work, we can also host the obituaries too if you don't want that other part. Or if you're interested in the AI and how that works, especially if you're have an online cremation business, let me know. I'm easy to find, and we're probably our next webinar that will be strictly about marketing and AI for funeral homes and cremation providers. So again, thanks everyone for attending. This was great. Good to be kind of back in this, and we will chat with you soon. Okay? Thanks a lot for attending today, and hope we can be in touch. Take care.